Well, first it was all of the street protests that we saw immediately after the election of Donald Trump, and then, of course, came the supremely successful recount effort, which resulted in Donald Trump getting another 130-some votes in Wisconsin, I think. And, of course, then we saw the spectacle of liberals everywhere begging electors, begging them to not vote for Hillary Clinton by any means, no, but to vote for somebody against Donald Trump. And now we're starting to see more and more of the meltdown now that it's official. So this is your right angle, ladies and gentlemen, on the left's derangement of derangement. We talked about Trump derangement syndrome last time. I think it's a much deeper issue than that. So let's get down to brass tacks. Scotty, these people are losing their minds. Keith Olbermann did something. Well, he's doing something. He's apparently doing like a 75,000-part series on why Donald Trump is a problem from the basement of the GQ, the GQ washroom back there. Yeah, that's right, where they keep the brooms and everything. And he's basically saying we're going to start the resistance, and we begin the resistance by refusing to call him president. That'll show him, the way that we could stop the Nazis by refusing to call Hitler Herr Hitler. We're just going to call him Hitler, and that ought to show him. Do you have any insight into what is causing this kind of absolute meltdown? It's not just Trump derangement syndrome. It's something bigger than that. It's like their entire worldview is coming apart, and they don't know what to do about it.
Well, I think there's fundamentally an idea within the progressive mind that things should work out the way I believe they should. And if they don't, any means to right that, or at least to protest the injustice, are acceptable. And usually those means involve either a breach of civility or a breach of law. Extra legal solutions to legal problems are, the way they do business. And so, you can't say, like, you don't see anybody on the left, and that's not true. You don't see these people on the left, the Keith Olbermanns on the left, saying, you know what? We got shellacked, as President Obama famously said after a midterm election. We got shellacked. We have some lessons to learn. We need to get out on the, among the people and find out what it is that they actually want from us. And you're not leading if nobody's following you. So let's go out and find out what we did wrong. No, instead, we assume that there must have been some shenanigans in some way. There must have been something, or there's something fundamentally wrong with the country in the sense that the Electoral College, which is woven and knit into our Constitution, is problematic. Whatever it is, it can't be introspection. It can't be looking in the mirror and saying, what did I do to bring this upon me? And I remember one time, and this is hard for anybody to do, frankly, but I remember one time years ago when I was just miserable because of something that somebody else was doing to me. And I just had this sort of aha moment. I don't know if it was like the word of the Lord came to me and said, what is your part in this, Scott? What can you, because you can't change other people's behavior, what can you change about yourself that would alter your perspective on the situation? And it just doesn't seem like people in the political realm, and certainly these progressives, can see it that way, because in their mind, there is a utopia a-coming just around the bend. And if it doesn't come rushing at them and put them in power to decide, exactly what utopia looks like, then something is wrong with the universe. Instead of acknowledging that it may be the universe is doing what the universe does. You're out of step, brother.
It'd be nice if somebody were to point out to the leftists this ignorant, semi-religious superstition that they live under constantly, this idea that this eternal sort of vindication is just around the corner and all we have to do is kill another 100 million people or so, and undoubtedly it'll get there. Hey. Steve, here's the kind of thing that I'm talking about. And I'd like to know whether you think this is intentional or subconscious. I'm beginning to think it's subconscious because you're seeing it everywhere. Just as an example, Bill Clinton was speaking a few days before we recorded this, and he said that James Comey cost Hillary the election because Comey had reinvestigated the new source of emails. We found out they were all on Weiner's computer, and Comey said, well, we got something else we're looking at. So he cost her the election. Bill Clinton seems to believe that either the Russians or especially FBI Director James Comey cost her the election. Hillary said that Obama cost her the election for not pulling back James Comey and keeping under a tighter rein. And nowhere in here, anywhere, do we hear the idea that James Comey was investigating an illegal server. The FBI was investigating 10 years of the most corrupt political influence in the Clinton investigation ever. The idea that it might have, the very idea that, Bill, the reason that the FBI director may have cost your wife the election, or these emails may have cost your wife the election, is because they're true. It's because they're true. It's because they happened. Maybe a candidate who wasn't under investigation from the FBI would have done a little better than your wife. That thought ever in your head? But it doesn't seem to, Steve. Do you think that they're that deep into the bubble that they just believe this stuff now?
Oh boy, such a great question loaded with so many facts. But the essential fact is that Hillary Clinton ran a campaign based on why won't you mouth breathers vote for my vagina, and then is furious that it didn't pan out for her.
Imagine.
It was, look at the month of August. I was a little worried. Donald Trump came out of the GOP convention badly, if you'll recall. But Hillary, instead of capitalizing on Trump's stumble out of the gate coming out of the convention, she essentially stopped campaigning. She spent the month of August doing fundraisers in rich people's living rooms. She was not on the stump. She was not pressing the flesh. She was not doing any of the things that a candidate is supposed to do. So while we were fretting that the size of rallies aren't a good indicator of support, we neglected the fact, and I'm talking about the three of us here, we neglected the fact that Hillary Clinton was running an even worse campaign based on the size of her friends' checkbooks. And, she set a record haul in the month of August. I think it was $143 million in a single month. And she spent it on TV ads that people didn't watch because they're downloading their TV shows from iTunes or Netflix, or they zip past them on their TiVo, if anybody still has a TiVo. I know we do. And she bought the wrong kind of ads. Instead of talking about a vision for America, she talked about Donald Trump's character, which people already knew and had discounted. And even though she had spent most of her adult life planning for this very moment, she still did not have a message other than why won't you mouth breathers vote for my vagina. What a terrible candidate. What a terrible campaign. And oh my God, if they can't even reach that level of introspection, this party is going to spend 4, 8, maybe even 12 years in the wilderness. And boy, it couldn't happen to a nicer bunch of
people. Yeah.
Bill, I can say for a certainty that had they put on a bumper sticker that slogan that Steve just repeated twice, they would have done better than they did.
Honesty is the best policy, isn't it, Scott?
I believe it.
Folks, it's a strange mental disease when you're up in arms and furious that the reason you lost the election was because some nefarious force, either WikiLeaks or the Russians or James Comey, revealed the truth to the American people. How dare they do such a thing and get in the way of my coronation? So it's not just Hillary's meltdown or Bill's meltdown or even people like Keith Olbermann's meltdown. It's the fact that half of the people in this country cannot accept the fact that Donald Trump has won. And the reason they can't accept it is not because of their dislike for Donald Trump. The reason they can't accept it is because they have been put in a situation by this election result where they have to make a decision. And the decision they have to make is a very serious one. It's a subconscious one, but the decision goes something like this. Either the American people have figured out that what we are doing is wrong, that they don't like our policies, that Barack Obama has been a catastrophe, that every time Barack Obama won in 2008, every single election, the Democrats did worse and worse and worse. The Republicans took the House, and then they took the Senate, and then they took the presidency. So on some level, these people whose entire identity really is to tell everybody how much smarter they are and better they are than Republicans, every single indication that they've had to face in terms of reality goes against their self-image. It's their very picture of themselves. So they have to decide, do we want to confront this false image we have of ourselves and realize that we may be wrong about everything, that you can't have 40 million open racists voting for somebody? Or do we construct an alternate reality in which we can get to maintain our beliefs and especially our our sense of virtue and our ability to signal virtue to others? Do we create a false reality, which seems much more real to them than the one that actually happened, by the way? A reality where they are, in fact, the smart people, and they are, in fact, the people who are beloved by the masses. And if it weren't for those idiots out there in flyover country, those few hundred or thousand rubes that live out somewhere between Los Angeles and New York, if they hadn't been given a steady diet of fake news and Russian intervention and FBI intervention and all of this stuff, then obviously our worldview would have triumphed and things would be back to their normal state. The indications are, at this moment, that they will not learn anything from this election. The indications are in some ways that they are going to think that the answer was they were not progressive enough.
Yeah.
I certainly hope that's the case, because they've done enough damage and I don't want them to do any more. But they are living in a state of psychological distress. And as we've said many, many, many times on this show, the reason that conservatives are stronger people emotionally and mentally and intellectually than liberals is not through any natural selection or anything. It's simply that we have to deal with their message every single day on Saturday Night Live and on CNN and every time a movie star opens his mouth, we get to hear about their opinion and their opinion of us. And we have to face it. Are we this or are we not? They've never heard this before. They didn't want to hear it before. Reality knocked it into their heads, and reality is going to fail. I'm telling you, the next 4 years are going to be just an endless series of whining and complaining and scapegoating so that they do not have to face the reality that their ideas don't work, that Hillary Clinton is a criminal, Hillary Clinton is a terrible candidate, Bill Clinton is a rapist. The FBI was doing a job investigating some of the worst corruption in American history. The American people woke up to this giant scam, and that Barack Obama's legacy, which was made up of executive orders, is written in pencil and is going to be erased, and there won't be anything left except for a man on TV constantly harping about all the good things that have happened now that he's gone really are his credit, and all the bad things that happened in his time were blamed on somebody else. He started it the moment he came in, and he's going to do it to the moment he goes out, and good riddance to all of them, I say. That's our end of 2016 message for you out there, progressives. You go ahead and make your choice. Do you want to face the reality, or do you want to not? I'm taking bets for this over at BillWhittle.com, and there's a big spread to cover because I think the knots are way ahead.
And let me just issue an invitation to the progressives. Come home to planet Earth. Come.
Scott, they don't like planet Earth.
Accept reality.
No, they don't like Earth. They don't want to
us.
come to Earth. No, you don't understand. They don't want to come to Earth. Earth is filled with Walmarts and McDonald's, and Earth is filled with people who don't dress quite
They
as
hate
well.
human beings.
Yeah, and Earth is filled with people who don't attend celebrity parties and who apparently don't appreciate what a really fine, Pinot Noir tastes like, and don't understand any of the details of the French poetry of the entire existentialist movement. That's why they don't want to come back to Earth. They don't want to come back to Earth because they don't like it here. They're trying to change us into their planet, Troflamador. It didn't work. And hopefully
that might be our second Vonnegut reference in 8 years of doing this show.
It didn't work, and I hope it won't work again. In any event, for those of you who are able to see reality and deal with conflicting opinions, even conflicting opinions on this show, we're very, very grateful for everything that you've done for us for 2016. I think we might have one more set to go before this year is over, and then we'll be looking forward to what we're going to be doing in the future. None of this would be possible without the paying members at BillWhittle.com. 50 million people have seen some of these videos, and just a few thousand of them are paying for them. So if you'd like to be part of the producing team instead of the consuming team, we'd love to have you and become a member over at BillWhittle.com. Until then, we'll see you next time. Have a great holiday.